All right, so I did a video giving a breakdown where antitrust law came from. I did a video on the breakdown of the statute antitrust law. So now we are getting into Google now and this Google decision. And so we're going to kind of go over the history of what's been going on here with Google. So, and what I've seen too, and usually when antitrust law comes about, and antitrust is monopoly law, essentially trying to prevent monopoly companies, is when there's an emerging technology that comes out and somebody just shoots up. So like I mentioned in my past video, that happened with Rockefeller with the oil industry. It also happened with the telephone company with Alexander Graham Bell. And then we have the internet here. And so in the 90s, there, as far as search, usually what there was AOL, there was Ask Jeeves, but then I remember my library teacher in elementary school first telling me about Google when I went to the library, my librarian at elementary school. That's when I first learned about Google. So then came the Google. And that was Google was huge because it was like a phone book on steroids. And they just had a very good search engine. Very easy to get information, and Google just got bigger and bigger too. And especially, when Wikipedia came out, that was a big part for Google as well, because if you wanted to find something on Wikipedia, really Wikipedia comes up in the first few pages, and so to find something on Wikipedia, you go to the Google search. And they were good what they did. They made a very well streamlined search platform. And what I noted in my past in my past video on antitrust law is antitrust law doesn't want to penalize a company that is efficient and innovative. And I think Google here was very efficient and innovative, and it was straight from the get-go something they had to learn, code, figure out themselves on how to come up with a good search engine. So, but also one thing that was funny is I was working for Expedia, and before I went to law school, and I was on the bus one time, and there was a guy who worked for Microsoft, and this was like in the 2010s-ish, 2011, and he was part of the Bing team, and so Microsoft had just come out with Bing to compete with Google. So I was talking to him about Bing, and he was telling me, oh yeah, Bing, like we've come out with this great thing where we will give some kind of, you can earn rewards by your searches on Bing. And I hadn't gone to law school at that point. I don't think it's my place to tell him any issues with that. But the first thing that went into my mind was, that's ridiculous. If you have to incentivize, pay people to use your search engine, that's a little pathetic in my mind. And it sounds like you're a little desperate, and in my mind was like, why are you wasting your resources on creating this incentive program? Why don't you just make a good product and let the product speak for itself? So on the one hand, when it comes to this antitrust thing, it's like, part of the people that are crying foul now is Microsoft. Microsoft got sued for their own antitrust issue back in the day with Internet Explorer and putting Internet Explorer on Windows. And so it's funny that Microsoft now crying foul. But so on the one hand, I can see Google just came up with a really good algorithm, and Bing was just desperate, and I don't think they really had a good business game plan on how to compete with Google. So on the one hand, it's like, okay, is this really antitrust? But that's just part of it. So The other issue is that Google started growing and growing, and they came out with their own web browser, Chrome, um, and Chrome just had everything where you could search on the internet browser. You didn't have to go to google.com, and so they integrated their own web browser into their own search platform. So now they're internet browser as well. The biggest thing though here was the Android devices, and they kind of became like the Microsoft of Android devices. And the issue was, and what I mentioned in the Rockefeller stuff is, what they're looking for is, I mean, they're okay with innovation and efficiency, but they're not okay with kind of instead of innovation efficiency, something more like this is a men's only club or no girls allowed, and coming up with deals with other companies on saying you can only work with us. Now that runs more into antitrust issues. So and I don't know the whole. I mean, this is a huge case. There's tons and tons and tons of facts, and I wasn't an attorney on this, but what I mean, it seems like there were contracts with cell phone companies, and that's the biggest one, was saying exclusively you run Android on here. You know, they have the Google search bar on the top of the phone. Chrome is pre-installed. So it's anti-competitive to Microsoft, and Microsoft was crying foul. So that's kind of where it all has come from. But what's interesting, though, about this is that the judge said that, yes, this violated antitrust law. And so what's happened in the past is that there's usually a required divestiture. So you have to cut your company up. So Rockefeller had to cut his company up into baby companies, and then the Bell company had to cut their company up into baby bells, and what a lot of telephone companies we have now. But what's interesting is the judge here didn't require Google to cut the company up, and that's really like how you fix the problem typically in most scenarios. But instead, the judge just said, well, you just have to share your data with the other companies that you get. And I mean, in my mind, that seems like a band-aid on a fix and a slap on the wrist. So it's interesting that the judge said that, hey, you violated antitrust, but the fix is just a band-aid. And also data privacy. I mean, there's so many data privacy laws in Europe and the United States. I mean, there could be a lot of issues with Google being able to comply with the court's order, and that could be contrary to other laws like in Europe with their data privacy standards, and not being able to share with third parties. But it also, raises the question, like, and also maybe people need to understand better how lucrative data can be, and how there has been a fight behind the scenes in the US in regards to data war. But basically, with all these part series that I'm coming out with on antitrust law, really my big conclusion is antitrust law is dead.